Good morning and welcome back to Mojospresso, a caffeine-inspired shot of inspiration and perspective to help you on your Friday with the goal to win the morning and win the day. And if ever there was an example of how it's the imperfections that connect humans the most, it's my hometown here in Melbourne, often voted the most livable city in the world. And in the last 2 years, we've had dust storms, hailstorms, bushfires, a global pandemic, a world record for the most locked down city. And 2 days ago, we had a freaking earthquake. Seriously, you can't make this shit up. But in those 5 seconds, last Wednesday, when our earth shook, whatever we were doing, we were rocked straight back into what's important, immediately calling our family and friends. And that compassion and connection and prioritization of what's important immediately kicked in, as did our understanding that life is fickle and fleeting and uncertain, and we've got to accept that for the rest of our lives. Yeah, the universe is in charge, Mother Nature's in charge, and it's humbling, but it's incredibly real, yeah? By the way, so did our sense of humor kick in. Went to a whole new level, as did the amount of memes. Okay, so to this week's theme, and it's one which pretty much everyone on the planet can relate to right now, and that is motivation. Yeah, or more specifically, finding motivation. And while we're living through one of, if not the most bizarre times in human history, I'm hoping coming out of the other side of that, we have a new perspective, especially around what we're truly motivated by. And this episode, by the way, is dedicated to all the Year 12 kids in Australia who've had the most insane 2 weeks of missing out on so forth. So motivation in its simplest form is a desire to do something. Yeah, it initiates our behaviours and maintains them. Yeah, it's effectively why a person does something. But a lot of us are struggling for motivation right now, and mainly because there's a lot of things we can't do or a lot of external stuff we don't like. But it's important to remember that motivations come from 2 places. Yes, they come from the outside world in doing and achieving stuff, is what we call extrinsic motivations. But they also come from deep within us. It's what we call intrinsic motivations. And in stressful and challenging times, like pandemics or in between jobs or when we lose someone, these crucible moments often create moments of clarity, sometimes called a wake-up call, as to what our motivations truly are, if we lean into them. Yeah, I heard someone say recently, don't waste the pandemic. As in, for all the pain it's caused, where's the opportunity? And for me, it's the time of self-reflection and introspection to reframe our perspective as to what our motivations are. So the journey is to identify what motivates us across these 2 lenses, extrinsic and intrinsic. And then once we identify them, we can get specific and turn them into a goal, to define what they actually mean for us on a personal level. And then we can rank them, so we know which ones are most important, and then we can go after them. And we got to do this work. We got to get the balance right. We're so out of balance right now. Right now, one of the greatest tragedies of our time is that as a human race, we've been over-indexing on extrinsic motivations to make us happy, either because we're craving external recognition. Once I make this kind of money, then I'll be enough. Or once I do this, then I'll be enough. Or these external things become a substitute for our intrinsic motivations, which we haven't taken the time to identify or understand. And then we wonder why we're so unmotivated. But there is a better way, and it's time to get that balance right, from both an emotional health point of view, but also a motivational perspective. So identify your extrinsic motivations first, and typically the big 4 is money, and your specific goal might be to earn enough money to put a deposit on a house, or pay off a debt, or buy a car, and that's totally cool, but don't make it a motivation driven by comparison, or ego, or fear, right? It might be material things. It might be to drive a certain car or certain clothes because you love the design. You love the look, and that's okay as well. Or it might be corporate status, right? It might be the motivation of getting to a certain level in my company might be your goal, And if that's a validation for good work, then that's a really good thing. Or it could be social status, recognizing by others as important for something. Or it could be winning, and your motivation or your goal might be just simply wanting to be the best. These motivations are all okay. Extrinsic motivations aren't of themselves bad. We all need money to live, and we all need a house to live under. It's when they become a substitute for our intrinsic motivations, how we want to feel deep inside of us, that's when you can feel flat and something's missing in your life. And this is where your intrinsic motivations can be so powerful. I've got a very wealthy client in the US who said to me recently, Ben, is this all there is? And I said, well, yeah, if all you're motivated on is money, then yeah, this is all there is. Intrinsic motivations, on the other hand, are those that light us up deep on the inside. And right now, they're so important to us because otherwise we might be trading our self-worth with net worth, or meaning and belonging with social status and recognition. Yeah, so have a think about your intrinsic motivations and define what they mean to you. Typically, they might be being with people you care about, yeah, which you might define as just hanging out with your good friends or family or your dog, or just having a no dickhead policy for as much of the week as possible. Yeah. Or it might be helping others or influencing others might be your intrinsic motivation. And therefore your goal or your definition of that might be doing a degree that helps someone, or a leadership role where you can actually influence change. Or another intrinsic motivation might be just finding meaning in your work, yeah, doing it because it matters. Yeah. Or it might be having an impact on the world, and you might define that as doing philanthropic work or going green in your consumption habits. Or it might be getting out of your comfort zone, which is realizing your potential to see what you're capable of in a chosen discipline, especially in the face of adversity, which is pretty much every year 12 kid in Australia right now. Yeah. Or it might be personal growth as an intrinsic motivation, which is one of the beautiful antidotes to this languishing feeling, which one of my favorite psychologists, Adam Grant, so beautifully described. So your goal out of languishing, therefore, is to get in flow, which athletes call being in the zone, or musicians call being in the pocket. Yeah. And to get in flow, we need to focus on three things: mastery, mindfulness, and meaning, as in it matters. Yeah. So the way to get in flow, find a task that you've always wanted to master. It might be a simple recipe, or playing guitar, or playing golf. Secondly, focus your attention from a mindfulness point of view, yeah, to get incredibly present on this task at hand. And thirdly, find something that matters. And it might just be it matters to your kids, or it might be making people laugh, which my good friends Tommy Little and Ryan Shelton do so beautifully in terms of their intrinsic motivations. If we're lacking motivation, some of the main reasons are we're either rationalizing, which means we're stuck in bed, which is our acronym for blame, excuses, and denial. And the antidote to that is establishing our values, yeah, to hold ourselves accountable. Or we might not just have identified our goals, or we might not have identified our sense of purpose, our why, which is a huge motivator right now, by the way. Or we're simply looking at the glass half empty rather than half full. Yeah, so we only see the bad side in everything. Or we haven't created simple habits to create consistency for ourselves, yeah, an operating system. Or we're doubting ourselves and haven't developed a mantra or an affirmation or a set of words to remind ourselves of who we are at our best. So tackling any of these may have a pretty big upside on your motivation. Yeah. Now, some really simple and small steps you can take that have a pretty big impact, or certainly have for our clients' ability to find motivation, might be celebrate tiny wins. Yeah, whatever your big, hairy, audacious goals are, it won't get accomplished overnight. So find the time to make a symbolic fist pump every day to acknowledge small successes along the way. By celebrating these tiny wins, you'll find a much needed daily dose of dopamine and self-motivation each day. Yeah. One of my favorite habits was made famous by Jerry Seinfeld, and these 4 words: don't break the chain. Yeah, these 4 simple words helped Jerry Seinfeld become one of the world's most successful comedians. Yeah, Seinfeld's 4-word mantra pushed him to write a new joke every single day. Don't break the chain. And using a wall calendar, he drew an X through every day on which he wrote. Yeah, and once the X's started forming a chain, his motivation grew. Yeah, as Seinfeld said, you like seeing the chain, especially when you get a few weeks under your belt. Yeah, your only job next is to not break the chain. Yeah, this is a really simple example of how success doesn't always begin with extraordinary motivation. To that point, one of the best pieces of motivational advice I've seen is from the author Melissa Dahl, who said, you don't have to feel like getting something done in order to actually get it done. I'll say that again. You don't have to feel like getting something done in order to actually get it done. Meaning, your feelings don't have to match your actions, especially when you truly want to move forward. Yeah, you could feel tired, but you're still going to get out of bed and go for a walk. Yeah, or feel overwhelmed, but you're still going to keep up with your studies and go through your read-throughs. Yeah, Hollywood has unfortunately romanticized this motivation as this big magical bundle of energy that projects us forward. Yeah, but who says you need to wait until you feel like doing something in order to start to act? The problem from this perspective isn't that you don't feel motivated. It's that you imagine you need to feel motivated. Yeah, Nike coined the just do it mantra for a reason. When you start being proactive and making decisions, small decisions, it's an energy source, as we discussed last week. And if you make another decision, and then another decision, and then another decision, it's your decisions, not your conditions, that creates this motivational momentum. Yeah. By far, the best way to stay motivated, though, is to create an operating system for yourself. Yeah, full of healthy habits. An operating system is a series of steps that you repeat daily that become habits that then become automatic. Yeah, a good system is step 1, I wake up. Step 2, I put on my gym gear, and step 3, I go and do 30 minutes of exercise, or meditation. After a while, you'll do those things automatically, and that becomes your operating system. A bad operating system is step 1, I wake up. Step 2, I hit the snooze button 3 times, and step 3, I pick up my phone and go on apps for the next hour. Yeah. After a while, I'll do those things automatically, and that will become the system. The difference between those two systems over 6 days or 6 weeks or 6 months in terms of your productivity or health are literally night and day. Yeah, and there's a beautiful book called Atomic Habits, by the way, that goes deep into this area. Having said that, for the long-term motivation, for lifetime motivation, don't underestimate passion and the power of passion in finding motivation. So we still got to stay curious and find that elusive sweet spot, when we feel most alive or most satisfied and most closely aligned with our purpose. So you still got to get out that sheet of paper and draw those 2 concentric circles, and then brainstorm what you're most passionate about on your left and what you're really good at your right, and what in the middle is your sweet spot. And ultimately, your goal is to spend less time doing the things that wear you down and more time doing the things that bring you joy. Yeah, but we've got to identify what that is. Finally, 3 reasons to prioritize intrinsic motivations over extrinsic motivations, and this is really important to know. Firstly, extrinsic motivations don't last, whereas intrinsic motivations last a lifetime. Secondly, if you're looking to control more things in your life, intrinsic motivations are within you. Yeah, you can control them 100%. Whereas extrinsic motivations, there's so many things outside of our control in those. And finally, intrinsic motivations are deeply connected to the 3 human needs that we all need. Yeah, the need for love, and your motivation might be just being with people you care about. The need for growth, and your motivation might be just getting out of your comfort zone. Or the need for contribution, and your motivation might be finding purpose and meaning in your efforts. Knowing that those 3 needs also unlock the 3 chemicals inside of us required for confidence and happiness. Oxytocin, the happiness drug, serotonin, the connection drug, and dopamine, the pattern recognition drug. And a shout out to Genevieve Hawkins for giving me that insight. Yeah. And to all the Year 12 kids out there that have missed out on so much, I wish you all the best in your last 8 weeks of schooling ever. Don't define yourself by the pandemic. Define yourself by your ability to overcome the pandemic and be motivated by the intrinsic opportunity to see what you're capable of, to push yourself out of your comfort zone in the face of adversity. In that way, for the rest of your life, you'll know what you're capable of. So there'll only ever be the response from whatever shit life throws your way. Okay, so that's it for another episode of Mojospresso. I forgot to mention our new merchandise has just launched, and the grey is one of my favourites at the moment. If you want to know more, you want to do a more detailed audit of motivations, there's a whole section in our Mindset app dedicated to this and covering this area. So I look forward to seeing everyone who has a ticket to our masterclass next Wednesday night. And until next time, I will love you and leave you and see you on the other side in the soup. All the best.